As we prepare for our scripture lesson today, in the season of Epiphany, we continue to explore God doing something new. And so I want to place us in the right context to receive this word. In Epiphany, we celebrate the arrival of God as human, Jesus. Epiphany also has the double meaning, right? Something that relates to revelation or experience of sudden insight. And God's arrival through Jesus would have not been predicted by anyone, certainly an Epiphany. And now God is with us. Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us. I misspoke last week by telling you that this week would be the last week of Epiphany, when in fact, now I can say that accurately. Next week is the last week of Epiphany, with Transfiguration Sunday. Last week, the text sort of plunked us down in front of Jeremiah, chapter 17, 5 through 10. And I say this because this will be a building on top of Jeremiah. We were challenged not to trust in mere mortals. Those that do are cursed, but blessed are those who trust in the Lord, whose trust is the Lord, he says. We were encouraged, right, to put our roots down beside the water, our source, God, so that we could be transformed, strengthened as we rely on him, even as the drought of difficulty settles over us. We were told that we would be tested, just like metal would have been tested in that time by being melted. The same word. God is to be our source of life. Guide us through your word today, Lord, for our next insight into who you are and who you want us to be. Today we hear from Luke 6:27 through 38. Jesus taught his disciples just before this, "Blessed are those, and woe unto those." Two opposite book ends, if you will. Paraphrasing what he says, you are blessed when you experience this bad thing. And woe unto you that are experiencing those good things now, because they will go away. His last woe in verse 26, "Woe to you when all speak well of you, for that is what their ancestors did to false prophets." And so we arrive now at Luke 6:27.
Luke 6:27 through 38. "But I say to you that, listen, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, and pray for those who abuse you. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from anyone who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to everyone who begs from you. And if anyone takes away your goods, do not ask for them again. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. If you lend to those from whom you hope to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much again. But love your enemies, do good, and lend, expecting nothing in return. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High. For he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be measured to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put in your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back. And the Lord adds blessings to this word.
And we respond by saying, "Thanks be to God."
Thanks be to God.
Today's message is titled The Golden Sermon. What do you call this section of Jesus' teaching? What do you refer to it as? The Golden Rule? I think so. This is what we refer to as the Golden Rule. And I'll get there. I'll talk about the Golden Rule, but I'm going to go in from the side, if you will. I'm going to begin with the end in mind, the main application, by starting with a little bit of science. Now, you guys know I love science by now, right? You know that I just love it. Taught 8th grade science. You know gold, obviously, right? On the periodic table of elements. Any other science geeks out there? I know there's a couple right here, right there. I know that for sure. My fellow geeks, I appreciate you. And even though I've taught 8th grade science, and even the periodic table of elements, which you can find gold on, I have to admit that I am a little out of practice. I'm a little bit iron oxide, if you will. Get it? Rusty? There wasn't quite as many groans as I really did anticipate. I was kind of going for the groan there. Actually, rust is a compound. It's not an element. An element is a basic building block, right? It can't be broken down any further. It's elemental. It's an element. Now, gold, that is something truly valuable. People have tried to make gold, right? You ever heard of anybody trying to make gold? Any group of people that have done that? What are they called? Alchemists. Who said that? You awesome people back there in the back. Alchemist, right? Now, alchemy, now do you hear something similar in that word to, modern day language? Alchemy, chemistry. And essentially that word kind of comes out of a combination of a Greek word for chema or something like that. I'd have to look at it. And another word that's al in another language, Arabic. And so these two things together formed alchemy. And alchemy has been all throughout history. And why on earth am I talking about gold and alchemy? Because it's going to connect you to the main point of everything that you need to know today. Throughout history, men and women have desired for lots of amazing things, use their creativity, their knowledge, their skill. They have experimented, even as early as the 2nd and 3rd century in alchemy, in order to make something that's elemental and pure. In fact, it's from this group that you have a combination of things, science and spiritual things come together. There are even alchemists that wanted to create this elixir of life, right? The philosopher's stone, if you will, or for those Harry Potter people, the sorcerer's stone. There's only one Harry Potter person I think I know in here. Maybe 2. 3. Okay, it's growing. But there was even from alchemy a desire to create something that gave life. It was always a pursuit of values and meaning. Now back to the Golden Rule. The Golden Rule was actually not even named the Golden Rule until the 17th century. And guess by who? And I could not find out why. Preachers and theologians. I have no idea why, but it's from Britain, essentially. Before I move on into more of that, let me just kind of conclude the alchemy section by saying it seems that people are always looking for a shortcut to obtain something of value. It seems like people are willing to use their creativity and experimentation and exploration, even combining spiritual elements in life in hopes of finding something that's fulfilling or meaningful, valuable. Hold on to that now as I transition to talking about the Golden Rule. Now, I gave you a little bit of the explanation of where the Golden Rule name came from, but did you know that the same concept, it seems, at least, of the Golden Rule is throughout much of history in many cultures and many religions? You know this, right? It's found in ancient Egypt, in ancient writings there, maybe as early as 2,000 years before Christ was even born. It's found in the ancient epic Mahabharata. We all know that one, of course, that Indian one, right? No? Okay. Me either. It's found in ancient Greece and Persia and Rome. And in religion, it shows itself in Buddhism, Confucianism, Hinduism, Humanism, Islam, Jainism, Tarzanism, Judaism, and Zoroastrianism. Now, I only made up one of those. I had to throw Tarzanism in there because I don't actually know what Jainism is. Did you catch it even? I don't know. So though it's not found in all religions or societies and cultures and things like that, there's evidence of it in many places, religions and cultures included. It's also called the ethic of reciprocity, right? It has to do with how we treat each other, right? Thinking about the other person. Now, Golden Rule is a Boy Scout thing for sure, right, Jason? Isn't this a big part of something that you have to learn at some point? And that's what you practice, right? It's in our culture, even secular cultures. But here is the point that I'm getting at. People throughout history have recognized something of value, and they see the value in behaving with an ethic of reciprocity. They've written about it, they've experimented with the elements of it, so to speak. They've used their creativity, their imagination, even try to tap into the spiritual elements of life to create something that is itself elemental. You see the comparison I'm making with alchemy. Mere mortals want to not be mortal. And in our mortality, we want to make this life better for all of us, even in our humanness. Remember Jeremiah and how I said this would build? Think of that scripture last week. I gave you a breakdown of it visually, mentally. 3 sections in Jeremiah. Cursed are those who trust in who? Mere mortals. Blessed are those in the next section who trust in God, whose trust is God. And then he talks about in Jeremiah, that 3rd section, the problem is, your roadblock is, you want to trust in God. You want to think you know you have the answers though, right? You want to trust in mere mortals, that's a tendency. But here's the problem, here's the roadblock. Even when we're trying to trust in God, our heart is messed up. Our heart is deceived, Jeremiah said. Can I tell you that all throughout history, we've all been deceived without God? Without God in the mix, we are deceived. You can try to apply whatever this concept is that you want to call it, ethic of reciprocity or the golden rule, the platinum rule, or the iron rule, whatever. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you take that all by itself, you are doomed to failure. I would love for us to go out now and go into the world and have victory in doing unto others as we would have them do unto us. Or, yes. But we will still have that roadblock. we can try to create with our imagination what those things might be that we would do. We might know some things to add to the chemistry equation that will help this world to be better, and yet it will still get messed up. Because it's not an equation of chemistry. It's not a compound. It's not adding things together like using our imagination and our mind and our heart and relying on the things that mere mortals trust in. Do you see where I'm going, folks? All of the readings that I did that talked about the golden rule lumped it in with every other one of those things that I mentioned, with the exception of Tarzanism, which doesn't exist. I don't know, maybe there's a big fan club of Tarzan out there, maybe it does, but all the writings, all the reference material that I looked at lumps it in. And yet, Jesus' statement here is actually fundamentally different because of verse 36. And this is the quintessential thing that we can take with us today. Are you ready for it? Verse 36. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Jesus' reasoning all leans on this. What is the fundamental element of the golden rule? It's love. It's love. Love is the thing that can't be broken down any further. And let me tell you, if we try to do this as mere mortals, as human, we will fail. We won't see the fruit that God intended. When we are planted by the water, when our source is God, when our reflection is on the mercy that we have received from God, when we look at our life and understand how God first loved us while we were yet sinners, when we sit and spend time, sure, there are going to be things that come up in our mind. There's going to be something that comes up in our hearts that reorients us as we sit with God. But that thing that actually does the affecting, that fundamental element is the love that originates with God. And so how do you get that love to pass on through this stuff? It's by spending that time. And like I said, as you spend the time, it's not as if your whole body shuts down and you're just somehow transcended into another state. All of our mental capacity and our heart is there engaged with God, and God works in and through us. But it's the love that goes. That basic element that can be passed on is love. Pass it on. Spend time at the source. As you do, you are transformed. There's no recreating. There's no reproducing. There's no creativity that can make this thing happen. Do unto others as you would have them do to you. Because it's basic. It's elemental. It's love. And it's from God. He loves you. Get that love, and you can pass it on. That can happen because you bring to Him your heart, your mind, and soul. And so today, as I conclude, you know the application of this is very simple. Jesus gave you application, right? He told you how to do it. Somebody wants your coat, give them your shirt also. Go the extra mile. Now here's the thing. Jesus, throughout this whole scenario, was talking about enemies. We can talk about our friends. Look at what He said about our friends and our family, those that we already love. Well, sure, it's easy to do to them what they would do to us. The hard part is to love the people that don't love you. To love the people that you are going to get nothing back from. That's why it's all the more important to tap into that source, which is Him. So, you're going to say this prayer with me. Agree with me at least as I say this prayer. Lord, help us to spend time with you. Load us up with love. Help us to keep giving it away, not even to our enemies, but especially to our enemies, because that's what you have instructed. Amen?
Amen.
Amen.